Okay.
These are my nunchucks.
You need to not make that noise while we're recording a podcast.
Damn, I'm ugly. Maybe we don't have to.
You're not ugly.
Okay.
Face for radio.
Welcome back to Biracial and Bitchy, a show about holding multiple identities and reconciling them into one strong sense of self. And now your host, Nisha Balsara.
Kemcho, welcome back to Biracial and Bitchy. Today I have a co-host. Hey! For those of you who don't know, this is actually
I forget that we have to look at the camera because I'm looking at myself on the screen.
For those of you who didn't. Today I thought we'd start a new segment called Your ADHD Aunties, because Karen and I are both
ADHD Aunties.
We're from
Ottawa.
We're from auntie culture.
Yes, we are.
Me being half Indian.
Me being half Mexicana.
And gossip
is our tea.
That's our forte.
I think that's the wind chime in the garden.
I think we need to have a boba first, and then we can continue this episode. Today I'm with a special guest.
Mademoiselle.
Karen. Karen is my college roommate. If you don't know, listen to her episode down below. Watch her from her windows. Her address is...
I live at...
We both come from a long line of auntie culture and gossip.
Tia culture.
For the best. Tia culture, right?
Tia culture, absolutely.
And we think the best thing to gossip about are things that will help other people. So let's talk about our favorite thing to talk about. Ourselves. Karen and I have a main key difference in our ADHD, which is that I got diagnosed as a wee little child.
And I got diagnosed as a wee old one.
But how old were you?
I was 30.
30?
Yep.
And right now you're...
31.
And I'm 32.
Yep, so that was recent. I've just completed my first anniversary, actually, of having an ADHD diagnosis. And
how's it been feeling?
Honestly, really, really good. It's been a life-changing thing, and really I have nobody else to thank but this girly here.
That's so nice. I'm so glad
me before
that you
else.
Let me diagnose you, because
it took a long time for me to be convinced.
You know, I have mentioned it to some people before, and they have
it's not something that's easy to accept.
You know, yeah, you should probably not do that.
No, I think it's okay. I just think it... No, I'm serious. I think there's a breaking... You have to break the stigma. You have to break the stigma.
You never know.
You have to educate.
When you bring up ADHD, if people are going to get it. Because some people think, oh, you have ADHD, we should put you in a tiny, tiny room and
isolate you.
And other people are like, everyone has a little bit of ADHD.
And then everyone else is like, oh my God, I think I have ADHD too. Which maybe you do.
Maybe you go to a therapist who gaslights you.
Story of my life, I've been gaslit.
And we're here to tell you.
Not today. Same.
We're here to tell you that we're going to encourage you. We're going to share our stories. And if you're ever curious about getting a diagnosis, obviously we're not mental health professionals.
No.
But we can tell you our experience and how life-changing it has been, our experience with medication and accommodations and unpacking a lot of
unmasking, unpacking.
Internalized ableism,
girly.
I guess it would be called. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would call it that.
So let's talk a little bit about our ADHD stories, and we want to validate you if you've been told yours can't be that bad.
Or there's no way. What happened to me a lot? Mm-hmm. No, there's no way. Don't worry about it. There's no way you have ADHD.
Why is having an ADHD diagnosis so important to you?
Oh. Yeah, exactly. My therapist literally said that to me. I was like, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, and he was like, what would that change? Like,
why do you
need that? Like, why would that, like, and why do you feel like you need to know? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, why do I feel like I need to know? And now that I know, I'm like,
what's your perspective?
That was medical malpractice. I'm suing. My perspective has changed infinitely. I also teach a lot of kids who are neurodivergent, and I love that, and I love it, and I love being neurodivergent. I love learning about neurodivergency. It's something that I have now become very passionate about. And it makes me real sad that there is still a lot of stigma around it, and a lot of misinformation, and a lot of, I don't know.
Icky bad feelings.
Especially from the older generation.
We were sharing this on the beach, is that not talking about ADHD, not talking about neurodivergent, like the implications aren't like you're just gonna be bored or you just have bad attention problems. It's like you could end a career you really like.
Literally.
You could lose all the relationships you value.
It has serious mental health implications.
Yeah. People with ADHD and without the tools or resources have trouble doing the things that they like. They have trouble holding on to projects and finishing them all the way through, which, I mean, imagine never ever finishing a project for your whole life.
Can't relate.
The opinion that you have on yourself
Yes.
can really eat at you and lead to devastating mental health implications.
Absolutely.
So we're here to share it.
So we're here to break that apart.
I'm going to share it with you from our biracial and beautiful perspectives.
Let's start with our who,
Where,
oh no, it's what,
with who.
This is the who, what, when, where, why. So give me the breakdown a little bit of your ADHD.
My ADHD, I was diagnosed as a wee little one.
How old were you, Nisha?
I don't really remember. I should have asked my mom.
Roughly speaking, you were in grade school.
I'm going to say I was in elementary school.
Elementary.
My dad. My brother was getting diagnosed at the time, and they were like, yeah, that one, little odd. Let's run her through. And they were like,
neurodivergent.
Ding, 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 neurodivergent.
And I all the alarm bells went off.
And I thankfully got a lot of assistance and help and education very early on. I had some great supportive parents, and I've lived my whole life knowing the limitations that I would have. And
Crazy.
I think, although,
did you feel like you know your strengths as well? Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
Okay, that's.
I feel like
amazing.
My mom and dad were from a long line of people who were neurodivergent too, so they both had experience with it.
You have ancestral neurodivergence.
Yeah, it's like ancestrally instilled in me. So, yeah, I felt very convicted in choosing my own career, and I felt like I had a lot of time to develop a sense of self that could carry me through adulthood.
Do you think you were?
But I think it affected my confidence.
Yeah. Was it before middle? Like, you were definitely not in middle school. Like, it wasn't like
it was before middle
6,
school.
7, 8. It was before.
It was like
wow.
Like yeah, it was
4th or 5th grade or something.
I think it was like 2nd grade, and I tried medication in 5th grade, and it was like obviously I was too young, so we just waited until middle school, and then my life changed when I got all the help I needed. So I got like tutoring.
You were fixed, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I actually was fixed. Mental illness, take care of that.
Gone.
Drink some water.
Just drink some water, really. Go on a hot girl walk.
Did you get a planner? But I also have seen many, many friends and people in my life get diagnosed with ADHD, and I've like always been like,
I clocked you.
I felt it.
Do you whoa, sorry.
So basically, I'm a doctor.
Do you feel like your relationship to your ADHD has changed over the course of your life?
Yes, very many times.
Like, was there ever a point where, like, just walk, like, if you could lump it into, like, eras, you know what I'm saying? Like,
okay.
Like confidence era.
Okay.
You know.
Wow.
I'm speaking your language.
You're really good at this.
Thank you.
Your Taylor Swift stuff.
I'm so sorry.
Fix that.
Fix that.
Okay, my diagnosis era was you know Donnie.
Obviously.
I'm gonna have to lower the volume for that.
Marianne.
My dad said, I was like, is there any memory you think of me about when I was like a child? And he was like, yeah, you were like that
Unhinged.
child, that like adopted child from the wild thornberry. I was like, oh, good.
Good.
Very unhinged.
Yeah.
And then there was like the tools, give her tools and not medications era.
Oh.
Which was the worst era.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm doing 800 things.
Yeah.
and I'm raw dogging this.
You're like, it's not working.
Yeah, that is traumatizing.
Yeah.
And then they were like, let's give you like, they're like, why don't you do just like a little bit of drugs? And then I was like, whoa.
And then that worked?
Yeah.
When was that? That was like middle school?
I mean, it like helped me get stuff done, but I'm still like a little weird.
Okay, yeah.
You know? Yeah. You're still like a little...
Do you feel like you fully like understood your ADHD, or do you feel like you were just kind of like, I gotta take this medication?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yes. Yes. Both.
Yes. Number 3, my lord. Number 3, my lord.
As soon as Karen visited, side note, she was like, anything you want to watch, we can watch. Anything that'll make you happy. And I was like, Shrek. The first one.
The only one.
Somebody.
We're somebody. Everybody wants to tell me the world's around me, and I ain't the...
So that was a challenging era for sure.
Yes.
And then we took the medication. And then also at school, because they knew I had ADHD, and ADHD wasn't like as well known about back then.
It was uncool back then.
Yeah. They were like, what are you doing? They were like, whoa.
Cease immediately.
A lot of teachers were like, why is she allowed in this classroom? No, but really?
No, yeah, that's tough.
So I like remember placing into all the high maths and all the high, and they dropped me down because of my ADHD.
What?
It's a good idea because it's good to have like
challenge. Because
ADHD kids do
get bored.
They have like low self-esteem because of experiences when they grow up and like the challenges they face.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of crushed my confidence. Well, mostly because I had a crush on a boy and he was in the high maths, and I like got into the high maths, and then they like pulled me back, and I was like,
traumatizing.
I was like,
that's emotional damage.
It's emotional damage. I never had a class with him again.
But then you met Jesse and you married him, so everything's fine.
I'm like still thinking about him.
In another timeline. What's his name? Rigoberto?
Absolutely not saying that.
He really lost his chance.
Yeah, because they fucking held me back in math, and then I was like, please let me do anything. They were like, why do you want more homework? Please.
I want to be with the boy I love.
I must be with the man that I love.
Anyways.
So that was
that's your origin story.
But Daddy, I love him era. Yeah,
now you're like have your stuff, and you like are doing what you do best, and you're still being creative, and you're channeling your energy in the way that best suits your style of life.
And I think that's the biggest thing with ADHD, and what I wish other people got is that ADHD, once you figure out like what you want to do and what you really feels good in your body and that you're actually good at and like naturally good at.
Yes, instead of trying to kind of mask and like fit into society's mold of what you think.
Your whole life will change.
Everything will change.
Everything
the blocks will fall into place.
You won't not have ADHD anymore.
No, but like you'll
be chugging along to a destination.
Did I steal the words right?
I forgot.
Oh, shpoop.
Shpoopies. And then I had enough hyperactive extracurriculars. I was in theater, and then I also had medication, and they finally bumped me up to like more challenging activities, and then I just slayed high school and slayed college and slayed my young adulthood. And then I turned 30 and like, you know, a bunch of things happened. And it brought up my ADHD again because whenever stuff happens, it like makes it more severe. And then that's when Karen ended up getting diagnosed.
That's when I got ADHD.
I gave it to her. If you didn't know, that's how it works.
It's actually contagious, so like watch out.
Silent twins. So what's really interesting is that when we met, I immediately was like, oh, she's very pretty. She's like going to be like a normal girl.
And I was.
And then she was like, I love yodeling. And I was like, oh, I detect that something is cute.
Right.
And then we got along like two peas in a pod.
College, Nisha and I were two huge weirdos, and
Absolutely.
We didn't have a lot of exposure to the outside world when we were together. Like I had my group of friends separately, and Nisha had her friends kind of separately, but we lived together and we were each other's best friend, and so we spent a lot of like pressure cooker time together.
Yes.
Alone, basically.
Just being little unhinged, unmasked.
Yeah.
Happies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
she got the vibe.
She got the vibe. We got each other's vibe. We really got the vibe. Kind of mine. So we really got each other, and it was amazing because I don't think I had ever like met someone who had the same like weirdness as me.
Met someone who thinks so much
like me. So that was really like cool and special. But at the time, like it never fit through my cabeza that I was so similar to you because of ADHD. I was just like, LOL, like,
because I didn't talk about it.
Because Nisha didn't talk about it.
Because my mom was like,
say nothing.
Say nothing. People will try to steal and sell your drugs.
I mean, like, she had a point.
She had a point.
I mean, people were trying to steal drugs.
But yeah, you can get that secret out of me.
Yeah, so I had no idea, and I don't think I even really knew what ADHD was. Like, I don't really remember having friends who were diagnosed or that, like, talked about it. Like, it was not something... So this was, like,
back in 2011, 12.
Because it wasn't on my radar at all, like, I don't think I knew really what ADHD was.
And I don't think remember. You were struggling also, like, academically,
well, and, like,
were you? I mean...
No, I was struggling socially. I was struggling academically a little bit because okay, so we are also very similar because we were, like, very high-achieving students. I was a valedictorian of my high school graduating class, shout out.
And I was not.
I will never let anyone forget that. I'm sorry, I was not the valedictorian, I was the salutatorian. That's so embarrassing. So I was like a superstar. No, I'm just kidding. But, so I was really, so I think I never got, like, clocked because I was extremely high achieving. I was a perfectionist. I got straight A's my entire life. Like, my big identity was, like, being good at school. That was my whole thing.
Yeah.
And all these, like, social deficits or, like, not deficits, but, like, struggles, challenges. The kind of challenges I had were, like, talking too much in class.
Chatties.
Being way too chatty. And then...
Hyperverbal.
Things that were not really visible to the, like, regular observer that were, like, very internal. Like, I was very internally anxious. I graduated college. I moved to the other coast of this country that we call home. I had my first job for the first, like, 3 years that I lived there. Sorry. I had a Mod Podge of jobs, and I like, walked dogs, and I worked at a bar, and I had a very, like, ADHD-friendly schedule where I started walking dogs at, like, 2 p.m., and then I worked at my server job at night. I would get home at, like, 2 in the morning. It was just, like, it worked for me very well. And then I started a job where it was remote, and that was super ADHD-friendly because, like, oh, it's dead. Internal temperature allowed. So anyway, so the pandemic hits, and I'm like, I want to be a teacher, okay? And then I actually become a teacher, and then holy cannoli, why is this so hard? It must be the pandemic. It must be because we're all virtual. It must be because teaching is the hardest job in the world. Caveat, obviously not. There are harder jobs, but one of them. And this whole time, Nisha and I are close friends, and we are best friends. Don't let her tell you otherwise. And she slowly starts dropping little breadcrumbs along the path to say, girly, I think you have ADHD.
No, I straight up was so impolite. I was like, have you ever thought you had ADHD?
And I was super resistant.
And she was like, absolutely not. I do things like...
Couldn't be me.
I deadass remember you being like, I deadass like wrote a cookbook in one night. And I was like... You're like, I have, like, incredible abilities of concentration. And I was like, bestie, I don't know how to tell you
literally stemming from ignorance, like, lack of knowledge.
This is the classic. I have so much concentration, but I don't know how to, like, just make it happen. It's like a fleeting superpower. Like, and
I have it one day and it's gone the next.
If you do it, you cannot ever repeat it the next day.
Right.
When you were, like, getting stuff done, I was like... Do you think you'll be able to recreate this the next day? And that was kind of how we started talking about it. Because everyone can have a concentration issue, right?
Right. Totally.
You know, it doesn't have to mean you have ADHD. But ADHD is so, like, a neurodivergent thing. Like, your inability...
It impacts your life in a way that it doesn't.
And your personality and who you are.
Yeah.
How you make friendships.
It runs deep is the thing that
It runs
real deep.
I like that.
It runs deep. It has its clutches. Its claws around your soul. No, but it's like a great thing.
I think, it's a little sparkle in your soul.
It's like a rotten
I mean, like, one thing, look at this freaking set. Karen did that. And it's because, like,
only
ADHD
an ADHD
people,
brain could see that.
Well, no, it's just
joking.
Like... Oh, sorry, that was a
special.
very yes and of me.
I can redo it.
Okay, yes. I actually agree with you. And so you can...
I love Nisha. Nisha's, like, very touch averse, but sometimes but, like, sometimes you'll just, and, like, sometimes you won't even touch me, though. You're just like,
I'm like, get the...
It's really cute, though. I like it.
I'm adorable.
She is. Look,
nothing's wrong with me. Oh no, I fucked up.
Hey, it's okay, baby. There you go. Fixed. Boom. Never was a problem to begin with. Oh my god. That's one of my favorite things.
The jungle.
Oh my god. Oh no. I should never have had that kombucha. I should have never. I'd say that was like a 4 out of 10. It had more vibrato.
It was more like...
It had like a voice behind it.
A bounding drum.
It had something to say.
Deeper.
Right.
Retumbant.
Retumbant. Honestly, look it up. Is that a word? Let us know.
Look it up. Read a book.
Let us know.
Anyway, speaking of ableism,
have you tried
pulling yourself up by your bootstrap?
Oh my god, we only have 2 hours and 56 minutes left. All right.
How will we ever finish?
How will we ever finish?
As much as I'd love to say, like, coping skills and the memes and the, lemon balm and L-theanine diets, super great. I get that. Karen and I have deeply benefited from the introduction of medication into our lives.
You don't even know.
And I feel like it is something that's so stigmatized, but has made our lives so...
So here's the thing, right? Like...
Here's the thing.
There's just...
Yes?
I was like...
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Before I was diagnosed, I felt like there was a huge stigma. Medication is still, I think, seen in the public sphere, in society as something that is you take because something is wrong with you that needs fixing, and it's so pervasive that like I couldn't accept that I had ADHD even without really fully understanding what it was.
Yeah,
because I was like, that would mean that there's something wrong with me, and I can't accept that.
Yeah,
because like I'm perfect.
Yeah. I remember, do you remember the process?
I have to be perfect.
I'd love to talk to you more about the process of actually making that phone call to the psychiatrist for the first time. Because I remember that was one of the biggest barriers, was just calling up the psychiatrist. Besides like you being like, first I have to be rich.
Right.
Because getting a diagnosis is expensive.
So expensive. I mean,
it's not covered.
Yeah, like.
But it can change your life.
No, it's crazy. No, it's crazy.
No, it's crazy.
Bro, it's crazy.
It's
so crazy. I had several therapists before I got diagnosed. And I swear to you, for like, not years, but like, with 2 different therapists.
2?
Yes. I had been like, I feel like there must be something else. Because I always went for depression, which only lasted like a couple weeks out of the month, which should have been a flag.
The PMDD.
It was PMDD, and I didn't know.
Surprise. You might also have that if you have ADHD.
Yeah, dude, especially if you are someone who menstruates. It's so tied to your hormones. Fun. No one talks about that.
No one talks about it.
But there was a huge barrier of like, no, that means there's something wrong with, sorry.
And you're spending all this money.
Roll it back. I'm in therapy, and I'm telling the therapist, who I presume is somebody who's well trained and is a professional in matters of the mind and the heart and the soul, not the tummy. That's what chefs are for. Anyway, and I'm going to my therapist and I'm saying, hey, I think maybe I might have something called ADHD. What do you think? And my therapist,
they're like, you're crazy.
Literally, what? Like, they both said variations of like, well, one was like, everyone thinks I have that nowadays, and I was like, okay. I was like, right, and yes, and maybe we do.
Maybe more star seeds needed to be made right now.
Maybe it's the same thing as
you ever think about that?
Gay people. Like, there's not more gay people now. It's just safer. Like, hello. Like, hello. Good. Like, 1950s called. They want their ableism back. And then my second therapist was like, well, why do you even want to know? Kind of like, what good would it do? To know.
So
and I was like, I guess you're right. Like, why do I need to know? Like,
she's like, what's a label even mean?
Right. Like, what do you don't need labels, baby. Like, honey, like, be free. Just like, don't attach yourself. Like, why do you need a label?
I can't.
And I was like, I guess you're right, because you're the professional, so you must know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
and so I guess you're right. And literally, if it hadn't been for you, like, I would have never gotten diagnosed.
It was just because, like, before it wasn't impacting your life, but because you'd recently, it's because you recently became a teacher, which has a very scheduled, like, planned.
Oh my God, yes.
You have to be the grown up.
You have to be on for 8 hours a day. You have to, be
and you basically can't do your own schedule because you're trying to accommodate the children's needs and not your own. And then you started.
And you're constantly overstimulated. You constantly can't self-regulate. Like, it's so much.
Suddenly.
And like before.
High achieving Karen
was
lost.
Was drowning. And like my first year, I was like, this is obviously hard because it's the pandemic. And like we lost people and like we had people quit and I had to like take on new classes and it was just absolute chaos.
It was you just started teaching?
Bad. I had just started teaching. It was really bad. And then the second year, my husband started going to law school. And so in the evenings before, he would like, I realized then that he had actually been giving me so much support. We would cook together, or like days when I couldn't, he would do it. And then he started going to night class every night of the week and I collapsed.
Yeah.
Like I was like coming home from school and just unable to do anything, just spending hours on the couch, just like staring off into space or like on my phone, and I would feel like a piece of poopy. And I genuinely was like, everyone must go through this as a teacher because this job is just so hard. How could you not?
I'm drained.
Yeah. I'm drained, like obviously. Like we're all drained. And like the discourse at school is like, oh, we're all exhausted, we're all burnt out. Like it's just after a pandemic. Like it's still during the pandemic.
Being a teacher is it's incredibly difficult.
Of course.
So you're thinking, it's
so I'm just like, this is what it is. Yeah, like this is just hard and this is normal. And my peers made it seem like, oh yeah, like same girl, like I watch TV when I come home too, right? And so I'm like, okay, like this is normal. And then I started like actually observing my coworkers and actually like listening to the things they said. Mm-hmm. And like I remember vividly one day driving home from work, I had like called a coworker because I had a question about something. And she was like, oh, hey, what's up? I'm on the way to the grocery store. I was like, what? In the middle of the work week on a Wednesday? Like, I'm going home to rot on my couch. Like, how do you have energy to go to the grocery store?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, like, hang on. Wait, what? Like, I couldn't comprehend it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started, like, putting the pieces together and, like, communicating with you of, like, wait, so this isn't normal? And then, of course, like, the algorithms picked up and like started feeding me like
and then because also
and I was relating to everything
and you had been the high achieving, you have good grades, you can't have ADHD, that's like so classic, and be like, why is it just now? Because a lot of people will be like, oh, that's just burnout, or like exactly. It's like, no, so when you just start like trickling in the information, I don't know, the algorithm starts serving you stuff. It's like, did you create a creative system to be this like high achieving, or are you just like super regulated and have a healthy, balanced life?
Right.
The more we started observing the similarities between us, a lot of it we were like, oh,
that makes sense.
That's ADHD symptoms. Right. That's why we lived so easily together.
So easily.
On top of having similar interests.
Yes. I still was. So the thing is, because I'd been gaslit by these other
this is a part
therapists.
Of the show
Wait,
now.
Pull it that way. Because I'd been gaslit by other therapists, I was like, I can't have it because I've already been told. And of course, like, not to throw anyone under the bus who's listening, but like most people in my life, when I brought this up, would be like, oh, like no way, like no, like you're like.
Oh, you're fine. That, like, I'm literally
like I can't see you having that. Yeah. Like you pay attention. And I was like, oh my god. So like they must be right. You know, like they must be right. So I find Nisha actually found her for me, like an ADHD. Did? Yeah, you did. Melinda did. Like an ADHD specialist, psychiatrist. So I could get assessed.
Finding a psychiatrist that actually specializes in ADHD is. Especially like child, adolescent, or adult.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
It's essential.
Because
they can also, they're more acutely attuned to different...
How it might fly under the radar.
Yeah. They can give you more kinds of tests, and they're really... Because when you come in and you're like, I want ADHD medication, what was that experience like for you?
Well, of course, like, they were... Yeah, like,
do you remember... being hurt, your feelings getting hurt after taking the test because you were like, she was so mean to me?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, because they like don't want people abusing, and that's why people, like, a lot of people go just to get
and so
medication, but like who don't have ADHD.
Exactly.
So like there's a lot of flags,
substances.
Exactly.
So a person with
like,
ADHD and rejection sensitive dysphoria going in, and I remember talking to you and being like, no, this is your rejection sensitive dysphoria. You're like, I don't even know I have ADHD. Yeah. And it's like,
I'm like, let's not make assumptions yet.
I think that's such a barrier to entry.
A huge barrier to entry.
And if you don't have someone in your corner being like, hey, like, keep going, take the test.
Huge barrier to be somebody who is very high masking, very high achieving. And I was 30 years old. So like I had made it this far without anyone noticing.
And you have a pretty, like, you have a normal life.
Yeah.
You're
as far as, like, people can tell.
Yeah, you're holding down a job.
Exactly.
Like, you know, as far as people can tell, as far as socially is acceptable, right?
Exactly. And all the things that everyone can't see are things that I do alone or with my husband who, let's be real, struggles with the same things. So it doesn't seem weird to either of us, right? Because it's just like, oh, we're the same.
But then when you start being exposed to other people working and how they don't have to have such intricate systems of organization.
To, like, actually function.
To function.
Yeah.
That's when you start asking yourself, oh, wait, is there a deficiency that I could get checked or, like, take a medication for that could help me not have to do so much running around to get simple things done?
Yeah, because I didn't even want medication. Like, I was going in...
Right.
Sorry, I was just going in to be like, I just need to know. Like, I just need to know if this is the reason why I'm struggling so hard. Because the things that I thought were the cause got better every year. Like, my workload got more manageable, or, like, I wasn't... The chaos was leaving slowly. I was getting more used to the same, like, classes. Mm-hmm. Like, teaching the same subject matter year after year. My classes actually got, like, the students I had over the years... I had, like, easier classes or less challenging familiar. Classes.
You kind of conquered the new hump of a new job.
Exactly. I got over that hump, and I was like, so why isn't it any easier? Like, why am I still struggling as much as I was the first year when things were absolutely chaos? And because I was in year 3, and I was, like, not functioning.
You got engaged.
And then I got engaged.
The ultimate challenge for an ADHDer.
To what? Fall in love?
Planning.
Just kidding. Actually, though.
Planning a wedding.
Planning a wedding. Which I slayed. So did you. Slay mama. Slay. I lost my train of thought.
What are you talking about?
Sorry.
Farts.
Oh, farts.
Oh, farts.
When I first went in, I was dead scared because I was like, she's going to tell me I don't have it.
Yeah.
She's going to tell me I don't have it. And then what do I do? Because, like, this is, like, the thing that explains it the most to me. So if it turns out that I don't have it, then, like, I'm
Well, you called
screwed.
me after taking the test, and you were like, I literally slayed mama. You're like, I crushed. And I was like, okay, well, maybe she doesn't. I was like, Jesse, like, I think I just made this woman spend
no, but, like, okay,
so much money.
So it was like a 3-part thing. Like, I went in for the very first consultation, and she was like, okay, like, tell me why you think you have this, basically, and, like, what do you want to do about it? And I was like, well, I don't even care about medication. I just need to know. And Nisha had, like, guided me to, like, write down, like, all the reasons why I thought I had it, and all the reasons why maybe I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Like, the things that resonated and the things that didn't. And the page of things that resonated was literally, like, 2 full pages. And then the list of, like, no's was, like, 5 things.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this must be proof. So I go in and I'm like, and I'm, like, reading all these things. And I'm like, and then this happens. And she's just, like, this very, like, stone cold.
Because they think you're kind of trying to pull one over on
them,
you know?
And she's just kind of like, okay, so we're going to bring you in. Like, I'm going to send you home with a questionnaire. And then we're going to bring you in for, like, some testing. And when I was doing the questionnaire, I was actually filling out with my mom and my husband separately. And it was really funny because a lot of the things on the list, they were like, this sounds more like me. And I was like, that is true. Like, I was like,
funny.
Mom, why do these things all sound like you? I wonder.
The call is coming from inside the house, mommy.
Exactly. So I did that, and then I submitted that, and then they were like, we're going to bring you in for testing. And it was horrible in the sense that I was in a room with a computer, and they were like, okay, this is a 20-minute test.
It's horrible.
And all you have to do is click the clicker as soon as you see, like, whatever, the light, come up.
Listen, if you're listening to this and you're like, this is not that bad. You go in there and you're like, this is painful. You're like, I cannot. You probably have ADHD.
I was sitting there like...
It is
like desperate to look at anything else because I think it's every 2 seconds. These, like, squares flash on the screen and you have to only click the box when it's, like, the square and the dot are, like, together. I don't know, something like that, right? But it's every 2 seconds. So it's slow enough to where you're just like, kill me.
It's like it's like not stimulating. So a normal like a non-ADHD person is gonna have it's a very simple test, but something about it If you have ADHD,
oh my god,
it's like painful.
Yeah.
So it feels painful it's like not stimulating. It's like you're simultaneously sleepy and like it's weird. It's a weird feeling. Basically,
yeah, and I walked out of there. I remember I slayed. Like I did so good on that. Like there's no way I have this thing because I got all of them right. Like I'm convinced. And then the report came out and it was like, you sucked at this.
They were like, yeah, you do.
I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it because I was looking at and then she walked me through it. Turns out she's like a huge data nerd, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Like the way she was talking me through the test. But she was like, actually, if you see, what's interesting is like you were doing really well and then basically like you get bored, right? And then you start tanking. And then the like algorithm would change or whatever. And so you're interested again. And then you eat again. And then it became like there's like the second half of it, it's like it's more engaging because it like starts following a pattern and then it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And so you're like it actually engages you. And my what is it called when you're like not inhibited, when you're like impulsive. Like my impulsivity is what they were measuring, and it was like off the chain, right? Like I was like clicking it when I shouldn't be clicking it.
And this is when you're like, you're trying.
And I was really trying,
yeah. Otherwise it wouldn't show up like that. If you were trying to forge the test, it
would show. That's what the psychiatrist was saying. She was like, when people try to like fake it and like like they think like what they think ADHD looks like.
Yeah.
You can tell. And she was like, this is clearly something where like you were trying to do well and like you didn't. And I was like,
people with ADHD can Benihana. They
can slay, but like not for 20 minutes at a boring task. Like, I'm sorry.
The best advice, and I remember talking you through it, I was just like, go razzle dazzle them. Like, really. I'm like, go. I was like, go show them you don't, honey.
For a while I was like, okay, like I don't really want medication. And then I was like, well, like, I don't know. Like, I've never known a life.
Your experience with medication, I think, is something pretty common because you have, or not really common. I think this is a very niche kind of experience. Like, you've done good so far,
right, in
your 30s, and then all of a sudden, like, you've had a level up in your career, essentially. And suddenly your practices are falling apart. Mm-hmm. And you realize my peers don't have those practices.
Right.
Okay. Right. We're starting to feel, we're a little different. Might be a little spicy.
Right.
Maybe a little. I'm so hungry. I'm ready for...
No, my God. Do you need a break?
No, I'm just ready to go to Donna Jean, babes.
Okay.
This episode is brought to you by...
The end. Bye. Bye. Nisha's hungry.
Your experience with medication was basically, why do we even try it? I've been doing pretty good so far. I don't understand. But then you had a huge executive functioning Olympics, I would say, which is planning a wedding.
True.
How was that experience?
Oh my God. Well,
of just not planning a wedding, but the
the medication. It was very much like, okay, I've never been medicated, so, and also like for me it was such a like mind twist to get this diagnosis, because I was like, I only know this life. Like, I've only ever lived my life and like my experience of it, and I thought that was what everyone else was living through. So now I have to like rejig my brain to be like, that's not what everyone else is going through, and this is very weird.
And you started seeing your growing up through a different lens.
Oh my God! I like started.
You start getting information like.
Yeah. You were like, oh my God! Like, of course. And how did nobody catch this? But it was the 90s, so I don't know.
So she was processing like 8,000 things a day.
Lot of things. And I first, like, I tried stimulants, and they actually just brought out my PMDD, and Nisha was like, this isn't a good fit. You should talk to your psychiatrist. And I did, and she was like, this isn't a good fit. And so then I got on Strattera, which is, like, took months to build up in my system. And so it was, like, a really slow, like, I kept being like, Nisha, like, how will I know? Like, how will I know it's working? And she was like, I don't know.
It's really, well, from now, I literally was like, girl, hold on. I'm literally like, should I go on Strattera?
I love it, but it's different for everyone.
It's so different for everyone, and everyone's mental.
Everything's different. Yeah, like you are your own unique thing. You're your own you need a specialist.
Yes, you need a specialist.
Don't listen to me and
don't listen to us.
Oh, I should go on that.
Don't listen to an influencer with some supplements. Even though, I mean, like, go off. Influencers influence. You know?
Anyway, but
specialist.
Yeah, you need someone who like knows what they're doing, because there's like real science involved.
And from the outside, it was like you very, very slowly started picking up small habits, started getting like small accommodations you had been making before. started sticking.
Yes.
And I was like...
Yeah, like, I really... Like, yes, I felt like I couldn't tell, but then my life started getting easier, and nothing was... nothing had changed, really, other than the fact that I was medicated. And it wasn't like a one day, you know, and then the next day. Like, it wasn't overnight, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Not at all. And it was still a really tough year. And even into, like, this fall was still really hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like it finally, like, because also, like, I started getting medicated for PMDD, and so, like, there was just a lot of... There's a period where you're trying to just...
Yeah, it's, like, kind of traumatic. It's, like, a lot of... Not trauma, but it's just, like, you're processing so much, and there's a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
Because you learn something that completely changes your whole scope of life.
Yes.
So you're processing all of that, like, you know, your personal story is so much of who you are, of your happiness level. Like, remember in the movie about the emotions, what's it called?
I actually haven't seen that. Inside Out.
Inside Out. Where when the little girl moves and is away from all the things that make her, she gets depressed. Aww. So, like, your ability to do those things are, like, falling, so you need to, like, rebuild them up with this new medication, right. And you just kind of get glimpses of seeing it.
Yeah.
Whereas I know with stimulants, you get it, like, right away, but they're not as regular. And so once you get that diagnosis,
everything will change.
Everything will change.
And I will say, like...
Maybe not for the better for a while.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it was... Man, I mean, there was a lot of grieving that you helped me through of, like, hey, this actually does mean that, like, you do kind of have a disability. And I was like, no, I don't. Like,
Karen was like, I
just don't want to
be disabled. This. And I was like, same. I fucking feel that.
Yeah.
It sucks. Like, it sucks when you're just like, oh, everyone's just doing everything without, 500 different alarms.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
You know?
Yeah. And it doesn't help that I feel like not a lot of people not in my life, but, like, enough people in my life actually have ADHD and didn't know. So where I would say things and people would be like, me too, though. Like, that's normal. Yeah, and so I'd be like, okay, well, I guess it is normal. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like a year later, she got diagnosed with ADHD and was like, guess what?
People with ADHD who are just like, oh, yeah, that's me too, and never think about it, they tend to get stuck. And then they tend to get depressed. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to talk about these things, because ADHD can be really treatable and, like...
Well, and it's also, like, such a... Like, I love my ADHD brain, and I feel like it's something that having, like, you having grown up with it and me having, like, learned about it much later in life, I feel like the fact that I learned about it so late, but, like, at this age... Like, I'd already done a lot of, like, personal growth to, like, love myself and stuff. And so when I learned this, it didn't shatter this, like, sense of self that I had. Like, I sort of accommodated into, like, okay, like...
We like, spent a lot of time talking about, okay, how does that make sense with you having ADHD?
Right, exactly.
A lot of people with ADHD will have to change careers or jobs frequently.
Yeah. Right.
But you were able to, with medication and with just, like, grieving... and identifying different parts of yourself as ADHD, you were able to make your job teaching into a creative, more unmasked career.
Dude, and, like, the dividends that has paid off have been huge. Like, my life today. I feel like I'm on a TED Talk.
Tell them how today your life.
Literally. No, but, like, okay, my life did a complete... Like, I feel like I'm a completely, not a different person, but, like, I feel like I'm consistently myself, or able to consistently be myself in all the good ways.
And the ways that make you happy.
And the ways that actually make me happy. And what I was afraid of before getting medicated is that it would, like, turn off my, like, sparkle. And the thing is, like, ADHD isn't, like, one little part of your brain that you can just, like, change. Like, it is your brain.
You are different.
Like, you are different. Biologically, like, you're just different, and
your brain goes boop boop a little.
There's no, like, it's not like it targets that zone and you can, like, turn it on or off. It's like it's everywhere. Like, it is you know. So, like, what the medication did was, like, help me actually use coping skills that I had, but, like, when you have ADHD, like, you literally can't use them. Do you want me to hold it? Is your arm getting tired?
Sure.
Like, you can't, like, people will tell you, like, try, get
medication,
a planner.
yes.
Or,
It's
like, have a routine. And you're like, I have tried that, and for some reason I can't keep up with it. Mm-hmm. And the only options are, it's because I suck, or it's because my brain can't do it. And you don't suck. And it's because your brain can't do it. Because if everybody else can and you can't, like, that's not it is a you problem, but it's not like a you problem. You know what I mean? It's like, you're just built different. And so the medication lets you, like, actually use all those coping skills.
Because whether you like it or not,
you're already
society
using
is built in a way that disables this group of people.
Yeah.
That people that have this brain.
Totally.
So we have to have these skills. And then the medication is something that's just going to treat the deficit in your brain to do the skills.
Yes.
But you'll still have to, like, do...
You still have to do all this stuff, but, like, it... And I very recently...
And
like,
do research.
Third burp of the night. That was the 1 out of 10. That was a bad one. Okay. All this is to say is that, like, learning that I have this, that my brain is built this way, has only made me radically, like, accept myself and gently make accommodations that work for me versus trying so hard to be neurotypical when I'm not. Like, my whole life was me trying so hard to just be neurotypical.
Yeah.
And she's not. So instead, thanks to your guidance, what the big change, and thanks to medication, is that like, I can accept myself, and actually the more I uncover, the more I'm like, man, like, this is so cool, because I think, and I'm biased, but I think that neurodivergent people are super interesting and have a depth of interest that neurotypical people don't have, and is actually really, really cool.
And ability.
Too. Like, it is so cool. And the one thing I will say that I know this is, like, for a different chapter, is just the language around deficit versus, like, empowerment is what, like, perpetuates the stigma, because it's a deficit of attention, right? Like, it's because people with ADHD can't regulate. Yeah. They can't do this. They can't do that. Right? It's like all the language around it. It's like
how's
negative.
Your function in society versus, like, your soul is actually implicitly worthless or worthless.
You're implicitly worthless. That's the takeaway.
Your soul has intrinsic value.
Yes.
And that ADHD people have, like, such passions and zest for life.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
But having, like, a little, like, medication or coaching or therapy or support group or podcast that can help you.
But before, it was very, like, I couldn't conceptualize what it would be like to not have these things affect me. Mm-hmm. Like, I just couldn't conceptualize it. And then because the medication I'm on is, like, a gradual build and all of that stuff, like, I noticed that my life was improving, but it was hard to pinpoint, like, how. Mm-hmm. And then my last refill, you know this, because I have ADHD and it doesn't, like, change everything. It doesn't go away. I didn't pick up my prescription, and there was, like, stuff with the pharmacy, whatever. So I was off of my meds for about I think it was only a week, but it was enough for it to leave my body, and, like, we had to start from scratch, basically. Like, it had to rebuild up too. And so
after
it
just
took,
a week.
Yeah.
Rough.
And now I feel like, it's kicked back in, but it's been, like, a month. So for probably like 3 weeks, I was I felt unmedicated for the first time since I've been medicated. And I was like, holy crap. Like, how did I do this?
Yeah.
Like, how did I do this? Like, it is such a difference, and it's crazy because I couldn't see it before.
And I love talking to you right now because you're fresh off of that first time realization.
Right.
And I know for me, I've had the medication shortage affecting me.
Yeah.
And it's, like, rattled my sense of self so much in a way that it's like it has completely affected my self-esteem. And I'm like, oh, I understand why people with ADHD get depression and, like, you know, are no longer functional, and how daunting the story of especially if you don't have a positive reaction to your medication, like you did for the first time. You don't have someone being like, hey, try a bunch of different stuff. Go see different, like, specialists.
Like, I feel like I hear that a lot with my kids. Is like, I tried it, but it didn't work for me. And I'm like, but, like, maybe you will find something that does.
Yeah.
And, like, if it does, it's because I know that some people are just, like, medication resistant. Yeah. Like, some people.
And also, you don't have to take medication.
No, you don't have to.
Especially if the journey to finding it is impacting is, like, devastating your mental health. Like, I know people who don't take medication because just trying it has unearthed other symptoms, which I can totally relate to. And, like, PMDD, some medication can worsen it. It's hard.
It is. It's really hard. Like, you have to, I would say, my advice for, like,
you have to get in really good mental health, really good support system.
Have a good support, like...
Educate yourself before getting into the...
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, if you have anyone that can hold your hand, basically, through it, in a non-judgmental way, that's, like... I feel like that's key. If you don't, you have us. We're your aunties.
Ask questions below. DM me. We'll answer them next time.
We have a lot to say on this topic. Me particularly, because this has become like a very...
It's like a fresh perspective, and then someone who's like grown up with it. Exactly. And I'm like, people need to hear this. Besides just the biracial and bitchy community. So this was our first episode of ADHD Aunties. We love you so much. Please, we love you. I don't know you. Oh my God. Okay, little ghouls.
Little ghouls.
I'm going to have a little mental breakdown, eat some vegan pizza. This is my best friend. Pizza. Go off, tell her how great she was.
Thank you for listening to Biracial and Bitchy. Be sure to rate us 5 stars because remember, karma is a relaxing thought. And do a bitch a favor. Share this episode with a friend. Bye!
For those of you who did.
What an amazing
We're just like
time.
This. What a family. How did the years go by? I don't think we can give anyone advice. Okay.
Just pretend you're talking to me, Mama.
So how are you?